Hello and welcome to a Wednesday quick take, hot take US national team roster Total Soccer show. I am Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who's seen the roster, but I haven't discussed him with it yet. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, it's interesting to do this not in the same room because it means that we really have no idea how the other one feels about it. Although I can probably take a guess if I were pressed.
Is that right? Yeah, just so everybody knows, we are not in office. We are recording remotely. We both watched the roster unveiling on Fox Sports 1 with Bruce Arena and the Fox Sports crew. How are you Okay, let's do this game. How are you guessing I'm feeling about it?
I'm thinking that you are not thrilled. You're kind of like meh about it, would be my guess.
Okay, so I'm mostly positive, but I see a couple of potential pitfalls that concern me.
Okay, well then maybe I'm projecting, because that's about how I feel about this roster.
All right, so why do you feel that way? Let's get more specific.
I mean, without going too far back into everything we've said about Bruce Arena and everything we said about Jurgen Klinsmann, this feels like a very Jurgen Klinsmann lineup.
Oh, why so?
Or roster, excuse me, because I know that there are extenuating circumstances and we can talk about those, but it absolutely feels like there's going to be players played out of position, like there's going to be different people tried in different places, to the extent that if you look at Twitter, no one really has an idea what the starting lineup is going to be. It could be a 4-2-3-1, it could be a 4-1-4-1, it could be a 4-3-3 I've seen suggested, and it just seems like it's kind of very confusing based on the names that have been called in.
Well, one of Arena's quotes was, this roster gives us a chance to play a couple of different looks. Which I sort of understand.
And I sort of understand that too, except that with some of the names that haven't been included, it doesn't allow you to, it doesn't give you the look of, we need to unlock a packed defense, let's bring in some creative playmakers.
Okay, so let's start there then. What are the big names that have not been included?
Sure. Kind of in no particular order, I would say DeAndre Yedlin, Graham Zusi, Benny Feilhaber, Sasha Kleshton, and Timmy Chandler are the ones that jump out immediately to me.
Okay, look, to cross a couple of those off so we don't have to talk about them in too much detail, I believe Yedlin, it's still that thigh injury. He's not quite 100%, so he's not good to go. Timmy Chandler, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he gets a late addition to this roster, because Bruce said he put Jermaine Jones on the roster, right? There were 24 for a 23, even though he's suspended for the Honduras game, because he's a domestic player, so it's not a big thing for him to travel. Timmy Chandler, maybe he only travels later for the Panama game, so put a pin in that for now.
I disagree, because I think, as I recall, he said basically, Jermaine Jones is a domestic player. For Timmy Chandler to have to travel all the way here for one game doesn't make much sense. So for him to go back...
the US has two games. There's the Panama game as well, for which he is available. So that's why I'm thinking that.
No, but I'm saying I think he means for one game for which he's available.
To
travel all the way here to play one game doesn't make as much sense, and we'd disrupt his schedule. So you might well be correct, and he could be added later. I'm just seeing that based on the fact that he said Jermaine Jones is here because of this, Timmy Chandler isn't here because of this.
Okay. I think maybe your reading is correct.
Okay.
Okay, what about Sasha Kleshton and Benny Feilhaber? Because we had them as almost definite, and we thought maybe it was just a battle to see which one of them makes the roster, right? In the end, we get neither of them, and I want to say the answer is a combined Clint Dempsey and the idea that Bruce has come around to playing Christian Pulisic through the middle.
I think so. I think that's probably what it is. I think we're both just very surprised because it seems like in his introductory press conference, he said, we want to try to have more possession. We want to try to identify a number 10 or roughly those points.
Yeah.
And again, against these defenses that are going to be very defensive, it seems like you would want somebody who he trusts. It seemed like those players were Benny Feilhaber and Sasha Kleshton. They both got called in January. It seems like Benny Feilhaber has impressed more since then. So I very much expected both of them to get called in and maybe Benny Feilhaber to start in those qualifiers.
And
so
Sorry, I was going to say, based on the first couple of weeks of MLS and CONCACAF Champions League, I could see the Sasha Kleshton decision, right? He is not at peak Sasha, so I understand taking him off. But Benny Feilhaber looked great in the second winter friendly, right? He had that great combination with Jordan Morris. He's looked not outstanding, but he's looked classy in the two games we've seen for Sporting KC, even though I don't think they've scored a goal yet. But he still looked perfectly Benny in those two games. So I don't feel like he's done anything wrong to get himself knocked out of the picture.
No, I mean, I think that's fair. And so then I guess what that points to is either Bruce Arena wants to go with veterans and people who he trusts to get the results into, must win, must get points games, or it's that he just doesn't feel comfortable bringing Benny Feilhaber in yet, and maybe he's more of a Gold Cup inclusion.
Yeah, well, it's a bit late in Benny's career for that, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Which is why I think a lot of people were upset by that, and I would say rightfully so, just for everything that we've said. But I guess that means that maybe he didn't fit with what Arena expects to do against these two teams, against Honduras and Panama, or maybe it's just that he wasn't quite ready to call him in.
So let's talk about maybe one of the reasons that Benny and Sasha didn't make it in is Clint Dempsey, because when Bruce Arena says we have a couple of different looks with this roster, one of those looks is Clint Dempsey in that sort of withdrawn forward or attacking midfielder role, which isn't identical to what Fairhaber does, but it's similar enough that you can see him occupying a roster spot instead of. Right, so this was the surprise, right? And it was the Bruce Arena or US Soccer's media people did a great job of teasing this on the show before the show, right?
Yep.
Because the actual roster announcement was on Fox Sports 1, which I kind of enjoyed the ceremony of it, even though it's mostly because Fox Sports 1 are airing the first game, so it's in their interest to publicise it. But then Bruce also went on is it Colin Cowherd? Is that the guy?
Yeah, the Herd.
Who does the radio show.
Or used to be the Herd. I'm not sure if it is anymore now that he's moved to Fox.
Right, he does a nationally televised radio show, from what I can tell. But it has a big reach, right? So it was kind of clever for Arena to go on there and sort of just let out the news that Dempsey would be on the roster and build some hype. It had me tweeting with exclamation marks, put it that way.
It did, I know. And you seem pretty excited about that, which I think actually, in retrospect, I should have seen and realized that you were going to be more positive about this. So why were you 3 exclamation points deep on Deuce?
Because we talked about the most recent Seattle game, right, in which Deuce did not score but had a goal disallowed. And I think we kind of diverge on how well we think he did. Because Arena had said before we want to see how sharp he looks. I thought he looked plenty sharp enough playing for Seattle, and I think you weren't as impressed when we saw the extended highlights of that game. Like for me, he had that header on target, and he had that great 1-2 with Jordan Morris, which I think he finished, but then was ruled out for a Jordan Morris handball. So I'm saying if you're Bruce Arena and you saw that game, or you're one of his staff and you saw that game, or you have the MLS Live Plus subscription that Arena has and you saw that game, then Dempsey probably did enough to think, for Arena to think, oh, I could use that. I could use that in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, see, I'm surprised to hear that, because when we talked about the roster, you seem to be of the same opinion that he wasn't quite ready yet based on everything we'd seen.
I meant more, I wouldn't be upset if he's not there. But if Bruce Arena says he's worth including and that's his judgment, I'm kind of inclined to believe him. And actually, did you catch what he said? He said it might be that we used Clint Dempsey, I don't know if you call him Deuce or Dempsey, for the last 15 or 20 minutes. So it may be that he's a sort of, oh no, it's 0-0 against Honduras, we really need 3 points, how about we get this guy off the bench?
Yeah, and maybe you're banking on another couple of weeks will give him the sharpness that Bruce Arena wants, or that Bruce Arena expects to be there come these games.
Yes, I think that's fair, right? But then someone like Benny Fairhaber then has to miss out. Do you want to talk about the flip side of this, which is that the idea of Christian Pulisic playing in attacking midfield? I saw you tweeting this, I saw Will Parchman tweeting this. Does this story come from somewhere, or is this just what people are thinking?
I think this is just,
people are saying.
I think this is based on the Will Parchman tweet was based on the goal Christian Pulisic scored yesterday when he was part of an attacking 3 for Borussia Dortmund, and then I was basically just echoing the sentiment. Yeah, as
he has been for a few weeks now. Mm-hmm. So, but there hasn't been a Bruce Arena thing where he said, actually, I think it's going to be Christian Pulisic in the middle.
No, not that I've heard. I mean, other than I think he said it's something we're looking at. I think he might have said that to Grant Wall. I think, or Grant Wall had an idea that might be something that was utilized.
Okay. All right. The other thing, the one thing I'd like on this roster is we talked about where does Fabian Johnson play? And I honestly thought maybe, even after all the talk of I want to play him left midfield, Bruce Arena said that, but left wiggle room to play left back. He sort of specifically has named 2 left backs, right? Villafana and DeMarcus Beasley, and maybe Tim Ream could play there as well. And he's named Fabian Johnson as a midfielder. And I kind of think as well that pushes towards Pulisic maybe playing centrally, is that now we have this extra wide attacking midfielder in Fabian Johnson.
So then the question becomes, if it is going to be Fabian Johnson on the left, presumably, and Christian Pulisic in the middle, who is over on that right-hand side? And it gets a little murky at that point.
So we're kind of assuming like a 4-1-3-2 of sorts.
That would be based on, I think I've seen a couple different people make this point, that Bruce Arena tends to be about putting the best players in the best form on the field to the extent that he can. Okay. And that would speak to Bobby Wood and Josie Altidore both playing, because they are so capable for the U.S. national team, and I think because the United States need to get some goals, so they can't really sit back. Yep. So it does point to a 4-1-3-2 with maybe Bradley as the 1, the 2 being Wood and Josie. So then you've got that midfield 3.
So if we assume it's Fabian Johnson left, we assume maybe Christian Pulisic central, then it's maybe Darlington Nagbe on the right. I could go for that. Sebastian Lletget, or it's Alejandro Bedoya.
Those are the 3, yeah.
There are plenty of options. Kellen Acosta also in there. I'm really happy Kellen Acosta made the final roster.
Right, as a defense. And then that's another point is like then you've got potentially 4 other kind of central midfielders because you've got Jermaine Jones, you've got Dax McCarty, and you've got Kellen Acosta, and then obviously Sebastian Lletget can also be that kind of defensive holding midfielder. So there's, again, a lot of question marks, which again maybe points to Bruce Arena saying we're going to have a couple different looks for this team.
And here's the other thing with the Sasha Kljestan, Benny Feilhaber thing. You think how many of these midfielders that have been named are actually quite versatile? Right, like Kellen Acosta could play central or a little bit wide, maybe not so much. Bedoya definitely can. Darlington Nabby can play central or wide. You know what I mean? So I think suddenly that becomes at a premium. And when it's Benny Feilhaber, really he's playing centrally, right? We saw Sasha Kljestan struggle a little bit on the right for New York Red Bulls and literally ask to be moved to the centre in the most recent game. So I think that's maybe one of the reasons is they're not as versatile as the guys that did make it.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. But I mean, I think I still have some concerns that I do want to get to, but I think maybe first we should talk about like the defense and the goalkeeping situation. Does that work for you?
It does. I mean, goalkeeping is as expected, right? Guzan, Howard, Ramondo, and then Howard, if he's like continues to stay sharp, he's going to be the starting keeper. The defense is what gives me the most concern, I think.
Okay.
Do you share those concerns?
I do-ish, but I think I want to leave that on a cliffhanger for a moment because should we talk about a sponsor today, Daryl Grove?
Are we going to be the show that teases something and then puts a sponsor in between? If so, I'm on board.
Yeah, but we're not inserting a pre-recorded like advertisement with music underneath, so I think that counts, right? That's okay then.
Okay, then today's show is sponsored by Roughneck Scarves. Roughneck Scarves, the official provider of scarves to US Soccer, to Major League Soccer, to the USL, and to the NCAA.
And to the Total Soccer Show. They have the Total Soccer Show Hello and Welcome scarf that we've mentioned many times before. And they helped to create the scarves that Daryl and I recently took possession of.
Yeah, so if you saw the photo, 2 days ago, scarves arrived in the office, which were, United We Stand on one side, the American flag. I think the Statue of Liberty might be on there. And on the flip side is Refugees Welcome. So this is not an official Roughneck Scarves product. It's made by Roughneck Scarves, custom made for someone who ordered it, and then we got
Donald Wine the Second.
Oh, good recall. So Donald Wine the Second ordered these by Roughneck Scarves. Then you get the quality of a really professionally made scarf instead of some old lady knitting it. and then you can sell those too. You can make a profit yourself. You can raise money for a charity, anything like that. The good news is if you want to buy a scarf or you want to do a big order of custom-made scarves like the Refugees Welcome one, you can get a 20% discount with the Total Soccer Show discount code.
That's right, 20% off any scarf or any bulk order, I guess, in the shop using the promo code Total Soccer Show, all one word, all uppercase.
And that's at roughneckscarves.com, RUFFNECK scarves.com.
All right, let's come back on the other side of the cliffhanger, Daryl Grove. Why does the defense give you concerns?
It feels a little lopsided.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like there are two left-backs in DeMarcus Beasley and Jorge Villafana, which I would have taken that as the two. But then the inclusion of Tim Ream along with 4 other centre-backs feels odd. It's like there are 3 left-backs.
Oh, yeah.
And only 1 right-back. And even the right-back is Michael Orozco-Fiscal, who is mostly a centre-back who can also play right-back. So this oddly just feels very lopsided to me.
Yes, and I think that's part, again, of why I say this feels like a Jurgen Klinsmann roster and a roster that I would be frustrated by. Because, like, at this point, it seems like it is going to be Jeff Cameron at right back. I think that is my guess for who starts there. Yes, absolutely.
So maybe it's more like Brooks and Gonzalez in the middle and Jeff Cameron at right back. And then Orozco is the backup right back.
That's my thinking. Unless I tried to weigh it out if it was possible that he was going to spring a surprise like 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 or something. I don't think he will.
No. There'll be no threes. There'll be no threes in this lineup anyway.
I hope not. But and then just from the fact that I think he said we're looking at Orozco and Jeff Cameron as our potential right backs.
Oh, did he say that? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, and so I think that means that that's where Jeff Cameron's going to be, which again is sort of like, wait, what's happening now? But he's a center back, but now he's a right back. Now we've got somebody else coming in to play center back. We're breaking up that partnership that looks so good. We're not sure about the left backs. DeMarcus Beasley is there. Like it just is all very like, wait, what's happening now? And how are we going to do this?
It's an awful lot of centre backs, right? Okay, I'm reading off the screen. The centre backs, people who can play centre back or predominantly play centre back are John Brooks, Jeff Cameron, Omar Gonzalez, Michael Orozco, Tim Ream, and Walker Zimmerman. That's 6 possible centre-backs. The normal thing to do is to pick 4.
Yeah, I mean, and so that's what, 6 of 7? That can't be right.
No, there's also DeMarcus Beasley
and
Jorge Villafana.
So 6 of 8, excuse me.
Yeah, 6 of 8 are predominantly centre-backs. But, I mean, it might work out, though. It could be also, and this leads to one of my other concerns with the roster, which is, do you remember we talked a while back about sort of, we're in a honeymoon period with Bruce Arena where we just feel like he's getting things right. And like one of the things that initially I thought is that if Arena says Dempsey's ready, then that means Dempsey's ready because I trust him. This roster brought to mind the 2006 World Cup and the problems with that roster, which in my mind, and I think the sort of general consensus is that Bruce Arena's 2006 World Cup roster and his starting 11s relied too heavily on the people that he knew and trusted. And that's why maybe Claudio Reyna was there when he shouldn't have been. Maybe Eddie Pope, it was a World Cup too far. There were a lot of guys that sort of he'd over-relied on because he trusted them from the past. And now I look at this first US national team roster for these World Cup qualifiers, and DeMarcus Beasley's there. Omar Gonzalez, it seems, might start. And Clint Dempsey, I can't shake this feeling that he is maybe getting caught up because Bruce Arena knows and trusts him. And I feel like he might be leaning too much on that stuff again. And if this all goes wrong, that might be the thing that gets thrown at Bruce Arena.
I mean, I think it absolutely will be. I think we should, at this point, mention again why we thought DeMarcus Beasley would be on this roster. Obvious, chemistry points there. That he's a veteran. He's like a locker room presence. He's a guy Bruce Arena trusts.
He's done the World Cup qualifying before.
Yep, and it's also a guy who plays with 3 Honduras attackers.
Yeah, so I've forgotten about that.
Sense.
Yeah, so it's like an inside intel situation because DeMarcus Beasley knows all about those Honduran attackers at Houston.
Now, also worth noting that DeMarcus Beasley did not start the second game of the MLS season for the Houston Dynamo, nor was he on the bench. So I don't know if that was just a preventative thing that he knew he was getting called up and Bruce Arena wanted him bubble wrapped, or if there's some other extenuating circumstance that, again, could give you pause for concern.
So my feeling is that Villafana starts and Beasley is there as a very reliable backup, like a non-panicky backup, right?
I've also seen a couple people suggest that maybe it'll be Tim Ream starting, and then you have kind of like more of a dedicated back four with then everyone else allowed to be really aggressive in the attack.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, I could maybe see that, but it's going to be a Roscoe or Cameron, right, as the right back. So you don't really have like a Cafu type figure to play right back.
Oh yeah, agreed. I think that it would be like all 4 of them just sitting back.
I see.
Yeah.
So the big absence there is Graham Zusi, right?
Right.
And that suggests that maybe he saw what we saw, which was Zusi really not delivering when he got forward. His crosses were not sort of on point or sometimes not even in the box.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I think that and actually maybe now this is maybe completely based on just my opinion and no actual factual evidence. But I'd say you talked about DeAndre Yedlin being hurt, and Eric Lehigh we know was subbed out. Seems like he had an injury,
yes.
But also seems like the best part of his game, at least according to the Nottingham Post, was that he was very helpful in the attack.
Right.
So if you don't have Yedlin, who's an attacking player, you don't have Eric Lehigh for whatever reason for an attacking player, you don't have Fabian Johnson as a left back, maybe you don't trust some of the issues with Graham Zusi as an attacking right back, then all of a sudden you don't really have any attacking fullbacks except for maybe Jorge Villafana, who can just be a stay-at-home left back. So let's just go with a more standard defense and worry about attacking from the attack.
Yeah, I think that could be what happens. Okay, anything else about Alex? I feel like this is our first reaction to this roster. We have more than a week to pick our starting 11 to really watch Honduras and Panama. We're going to go back and watch some video and see what we think will work best against these specific opponents. So we'll go deeper and deeper and deeper on this roster over the coming week. But do you have any more initial reactions before I sign us off for the day?
Yeah, and I think as much as I would like to share your optimism and excitement, and I think a lot of people are excited about this roster because there are some names that have been left off that I think people didn't want to see, and there's a lot of players on there that suggest more exciting options.
Okay.
But the big old but here is that we talked when Bruce Arena was first appointed that it felt like he would bring stability and regularity to this national team, and that sounds like he would make them eat prunes. But what I mean is that it would be kind of we would know what to expect, and so there was a kind of a different approach between the first and second January games, and it's okay, we're figuring stuff out there. But I think we both had a very kind of concrete idea of what 21 of the 25 players that we thought might get called in, and we were wrong on a decent number of them. Ooh. And to me, again, and maybe that just speaks to we're not as know-it-alls as I thought we were, but it could also be that it's just, again, it's another you know what, I want to bring this guy, and I like this guy, and I trust that guy, and he's been there before, so I'll bring them and it'll work. And it doesn't quite feel consistent to me.
I disagree. I wouldn't say we were all that wrong. I think the only thing we really missed on were the extent of injuries to the right backs, right? There's no Yedlin, no Lehigh because of injury. seems to not trust Zuzi, and then I thought Chandler would be called in to use in the second game at least, so missed on that. The big miss I think that we got is the Fail Harbour Kleshton one, and I think the thing that explains that is the decision to go with Clint Dempsey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess it explains it for you, and it explains it maybe for Bruce Arena. I don't know if I buy into that one as much.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, but let's say this. If I want to give you some optimism before I see you tomorrow, Taylor, I want to see like a bright-eyed, optimistic Taylor Rockwell when I come in the office tomorrow. We do know, for example, we know where Fabian Johnson's going to be playing, right? That's a thing that we never knew under Klinsmann. He has said left midfield is named as a midfielder. There are 2 other left-backs named. Fabian Johnson is going to play as a midfielder. If he starts at left-back and it's not due to injuries to Beasley and Virfania, then I'll eat that and I'll be wrong. But we know that Michael Bradley will play as essentially a deeper lying number 6 type midfielder. I think under Klinsmann we never quite knew where that was going to go. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like at least we have these pieces that we can like keep in our heads and build things around.
All right. Well, you've made me feel slightly better, but maybe talking about it more and more over the next couple of weeks will help with that as well.
Okay, yeah, a reminder that this game is March 24th. It'll be on Fox Sports 1. It's the USA versus Honduras in World Cup qualifying. He's been Taylor Rockwell, I've been Daryl Grove, and we'll be back with you again later this week. Thank you for listening. You gotta slice it.